All right, so just thought I'd make a quick video about a client that had some hip flexion issues. His main complaint was actually that his hamstring was getting really tight. And he noticed that when he was walking or even going up and down some stairs, especially if he was jogging. So he was getting some really bad tightness kind of right on the back of his leg. And so I kind of wanted to show you some range of motion assessments and then some corrective exercises on how to address some of that. So one of the first things I had him do was, as he was standing, we noticed as he was going into some of these ranges of motion that when he lifted his left leg up, he could go higher than when he lifted his right leg. He couldn't get his right leg up quite as high as he could with his left. His left could go much higher. His right leg, I actually noticed that he kind of compensated and dipped to the right and kind of turned his body backwards just as he was trying to lift that leg up. So he was compensating with his trunk muscles to try and lift that right leg up, okay? So we just had to kind of balance it out and try and figure out, all right, how far could he lift, the leg up from side to side? So you can easily do this. Right now I'm going to use this border kind of on the trim of my wall over here. And I can see when I lift my foot up, how far do my toes get above that trim? I'm not trying to kick it or swing it up. I'm just trying to actively use these hip flexors to try to raise and lift that leg up left side and right side. So that was another indicator that we can use, and always use a measuring point, whether it's a spot on the ceiling or a spot on the floor, so you can kind of gauge and see, all right, how high am I getting my toes up? And again, his right one on one side was not going up as high as the opposite one. And that's kind of interesting that it was on the same side where he's having the hamstring issue. So one of the first exercises that we looked at doing was a supine 3-position leg lift. So again, this muscle that we're aiming for is right here, kind of anywhere from the side of your hip, kind of right over here to the front of your hip. So if you drew a line from your belly button and went straight over, and you went just above where kind of the meat of your quad is, just above that, this is the range kind of where your hip flexors are at. Most of them are fairly deep on the inside of your hip. Some of them are actually a little bit more superficial right here on the outside of the hip. But these muscles contract or shorten when your leg is lifted forward. So you want to be able to feel these muscles engage when you're doing some of these exercises, okay? So the first one that we are doing is a 3-position leg lift. So down on the floor, I just had him start to lift one leg straight up and then continue to lift that leg straight up for 20 repetitions. So you're just trying to lift that straight up and down for 20 with your toes straight up and down, okay? Then you're going to repeat and do the same 20 with the opposite leg, okay? But 20 repetitions. Second position is with your leg turned out. So more of a soccer style kick, but again, your knee is straight. You're trying to feel these front hip flexion muscles, okay? So again, 20 repetitions with the foot turned out. And again, do 20 on the opposite side just to keep it even. And then the last one is with your foot turned in, trying to do that same hip flexion motion. So again, I'm just trying to lift my leg straight up and down for 20 seconds with my toes turned in, and then I repeat and do the same toes in, 20 repetitions on my left side. So that was exercise number 1. The second one that we did was this milk crate step over. So he had a milk crate that was about the same height as my little Dremel toolbox that I'll show you here. And for this one, all you're trying to do is pretend like you're stepping over a very small fence, okay? So you're just trying to step over with one hip, and then you're stepping over with the other one. Now as you do this, you're getting some internal and external rotation in your hips as you're just doing this lateral step over. Okay, and again, you should start to feel some of these muscles kind of right here on the front of your hips as you're stepping over left and right. So on this one, we're trying to do 20 step overs on each side. So there's 1 and 1 back, 2 over, and 2 back. So again, up to 20, and again, you should start to feel something in this region contracting and starting to get a little fatigued, okay? So that's exercise number 2. The third one that we're doing is a supine hip bridge. Now, when I was doing some of his range of motion assessments, we were finding that he had difficulty engaging the posterior side. So you might think to yourself, wait, that's not the hip flexion muscles that we're talking about, but it is very important that this back butt muscle, your glute, is there to help balance out this front muscle, Okay, so even though his pain was resulting down here in the hamstring, it's very important to activate this back butt muscle as well as this side hip muscle in order to provide some support for this hip flexion to kind of create this force couple up and down, okay? So I'm gonna show you a glute exercise. So again, even though it's not a hip flexion muscle, it'll help support this movement pattern and take some of the tension off of that hamstring. Okay, so this one we're gonna do is just a supine bridge. So for him, I just had him sitting down, laying flat on his back on the floor with his knees bent. And all he was trying to do is just lift his butt up in the air. Now when he did this, I said, focus on your glutes. So you should feel these back butt muscles kind of lifting your body up and down, okay? So again, you're just trying to do 3 sets of 20 lifts, but you should feel both your right and your left butt cheek engage. If you don't, you can try a couple of different things. One technique to try is maybe bring your feet and knees closer together. So you can do that and hopefully feel glutes. Another one you can try is, if that doesn't work, try to bring your feet further apart and do those same hip bridges up and down. Okay? And then the last one you can try is you can try to move your feet either toes out or toes in a little bit. So now I have my toes turned in. For me, that's actually worse. Right now I have my toes kind of turned out, and that for me actually feels a little bit better. Okay, so again, trying to do 20 repetitions of those hip bridges up and down. And then another one that we're doing is an externally rotated snow angel. So for this one, we're just gonna put your feet down flat on the ground, turn your toes out in an externally rotated position, and then try to spread your legs apart and then back together again. When you do that, you should feel these lateral butt muscles engage. So again, I had him lying down on the floor on his back, and I just had his feet turned outward like this. I just had him move his legs apart and then together again, and then apart and then together again, kind of focusing on the outer thighs in the apart position, and then his inner thighs as he brought his legs back in together. So he's just trying to make a snow angel just with the feet. Okay, and by doing that, he was able to feel some of these side butt muscles really engage. So again, about 20 repetitions of those lateral push-outs. And I told him that he could kind of push his feet harder into the carpet or into the floor to get more friction or resistance as he got stronger in those motions. But just for him doing 20, he felt fatigue right here on those lateral butt muscles, which again are very key and very important in trying to stabilize those hip muscles. And then the last one I had him do is just a very gentle and very slow speed skater action. So for him, I just had him kind of move and push off left, and then kind of push off to his right leg. And so I'm only landing on one foot. Okay, I'm not touching down with this other inside leg. I'm really trying to push to my outside leg, and then push to my outside leg, and push left, and then push off right. Okay, so side to side, just like this. And again, you can shorten it up, and even going here to here, just kind of shifting your weight. That's one way to regress it. Okay, if you really want to increase the speed and increase the force on this, you can go really wide and really try to hop and land as long as you're feeling these side butt muscles doing the job, and maybe even some side quads. So those are some okay muscles to feel when you're doing those lateral speed skaters. So again, about 20 repetitions each side. Try to do between 2 and 3 sets on each side. So again, those are just a few exercises to do to try to strengthen some of those hip muscles to take off some of the tension of a tight hamstring. Now, when you're done with those exercises, the thing to recheck is just that leg lift again. See if that has improved. Hopefully it has, okay? And with this particular client, he noticed pretty quickly that his injured side was able to go up higher without having any of those tight hamstring issues. So that's what we're trying to aim for on that one, is just reassess after you've done some of those movement patterns, okay? So that's it.